All right. Well, we have a limited amount of time today and some great content, great information. So let's go ahead and get started. So first off, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule today to join us for our webinar, Meeting Your GPU Demand for AI with Dell Technologies and Liqid. My name is George Wagner. I am the uh, executive director of product marketing and technical marketing here at Liqid. And on behalf of Dell Technologies and Liqid, I want to welcome you to this webinar. What I want to do also is kind of start off with, before I even introduce our speakers today, start off with one thing, a simple number, 427, 427. What is the significance of 427? Yes, it is a big block Chevy engine. There's in a lot of probably Corvettes and some big trucks. However, it's also the number of days since ChatGPT went live, causing a complete stir, scramble, a mad scramble, if you will, for organizations who are looking really to do proof of value or even deploy AI in their data centers. And why the data center? Well, there's many reasons. From a security standpoint, control, and Alan and Sumit, who I'll introduce in a moment, will go through that. However, many of them are doing their own data centers, and there are some challenges where accelerators and GPUs, to be specific, are really kind of the key resource that are driving these workloads, these AI workloads from training to inference. They are very in demand, and one of the challenges right now is not only finding them, but also getting the correct amount of GPU density to meet these workloads. And so thankfully, we are going to show you, and by say we, I mean these two gentlemen, are going to show you how to navigate all the options available to you along the way. And so with that, I want to introduce our experts, our presenters. First off, we have Alan Clingerman. Alan is the Chief Technology Strategist for Power Edge and High Performance Architecture for HPC AI and Analytics with Dell Technologies. Hello, Alan.
Hello.
And thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it. I've had the opportunity to listen to Alan present. He's very knowledgeable. He has got a ton of experience, and so I think you guys are going to learn a lot from this. And we're also joined by, well, my boss, but also the CEO and co-founder of Liqid, Sumit Puri. I've worked with Sumit for several years now. He's the reason why I joined the company. Very, very fantastic technology, very knowledgeable person. Formerly a fellow, an engineering fellow with Sandforce and other organizations, so he understands the nuts and the bolts as well as can speak to it very eloquently. So I've introduced these guys. I want to give you some housekeeping. First off, obviously I've muted all of the phones. So if you have any questions, I highly encourage you to use the Q&A on the application in Zoom to ask questions. Both gentlemen are going to give kind of these brief overviews of kind of where they see AI going and the challenges and some of the solutions. But we really want a lion's share of our time together today to be focused on Q&A and helping you understand, how you can navigate from an infrastructure standpoint, et cetera, your AI journey. So use Q&A after the presentations. We'll do a Q&A for as long as we need to, and we'll go from there. So I want to keep it highly interactive. And with that, I'd like to hand the ball over to Alan.
No, that's great. Thanks, George. And welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for giving us some time out of your very busy days, because I know how it goes anymore. And Sumit and I really have an exciting agenda for you, really lined up around artificial intelligence and everything that's happening in the space. And all we really wanted to do was just provide a little context in the opener of what our two organizations are doing together. We have a long-standing relationship, and how we combine to make this environment better overall for the entire AI journey for most of you, right? Moving from predictive analytics all the way through inference for traditional and generative AI. And I think the one thing I kind of want to start with, and you probably have seen this hopefully from some of the announcements that Michael and our other leadership have made, we're redefining ourselves with artificial intelligence. It's actually the next version of Dell per se, 3.0. Now that we've moved past our acquisition of EMC, now it's really all about artificial intelligence and recharacterizing all of our platforms in this era, because it really is defining technology for our industry. We're all at a unique point in time. And I think depending on how long you've been in technology, you might have been around during the internet era, and certainly during what I've kind of referred to as the app era, right? Of everything going to all the mobile devices and applications, providing great consumer experiences that many of us use in our day-to-day life. It's going to be the biggest disruptor we've seen in probably my lifetime, and probably many of yours. It has that opportunity, right, to really be profound and how we move forward with technology in our lives to improve outcomes. You've probably seen this, right? Michael's very much a technology optimist of like all the great and goodness that can come out of artificial intelligence. And it's really about leveraging your data, your organization's data, like ChatGPT, as George mentioned. And of course, the auto enthusiast me went right to the block, back to when you said 427. But yes, like it's been that many days, and we've seen this kind of occur within many customers that suddenly a C-level or board level initiative have arisen right since then, because people saw how big of an impact this could have across every industry and vertical, that you need to think about what's going to happen with the competition in your space or sector. Because if you don't innovate and drive change and automate processes with artificial intelligence, your competitors are going to, right? And well, as we saw during the internet and app era, the Fortune 500 made more changes, right, than what we've seen in the prior 5 decades. Well, this is going to be even a faster, profound change. So if you're not making an investment and taking an AI-led strategy for your company, you're putting yourself at competitive disadvantage. Hence why we jumped all on board and introduced our chief AI officer. Yes, we introduced this about 3 months ago. Jeff Boudreau, who ran our infrastructure solutions group, all of our data center offerings, is now driving AI across the company. And we think about it in context of in, on, for, and with, right? With our partners such as Liqid, and obviously other ecosystem partners that are out there, VARs, GSIs, et cetera. We think about it, AI on Dell Technologies. How are we helping you make this the easy button, right? Our joint solution here is one of the ways to make it the easy button for AI. And then we think about it just even with all the projects we're doing internally, right? And how do we make those outward facing for our customers? Because I get the question all the time, like, hey, Alan, you guys are a Fortune 50. What are you doing with AI? We were tracking over 1,000 projects. Now we're prioritizing those, right? But over 1,000 projects across Dell Technologies, to improve operations, to increase revenue and profit, or to reduce, operational expense. So I'll kind of look at this. This kind of study came out really, really good. There is a link. We'll make sure this gets out to you. I believe George is going to be providing the decks afterwards, but regardless, we'll make sure this link goes out. Avanti Insights did a great review from a lot of customers, right, this year. And you can see it kind of reflected here that 92% of organizations realized that they had to shift to an AI-first operating model. And we know there's not necessarily net new dollars for people to go invest. What does that mean? In many cases, they're actually, expecting to pull down traditional IT spend, right? Whether it's cloud or on-prem in this multi-cloud world, it's all going towards AI to make that investment to change those aspects of the business that I just described. And you can see here, I think a lot of people, especially with traditional AI or narrow AI use cases, thought it was very, vertical specific. By the way, super important. Those are all those use cases are still valid. You can see, it's across every industry or vertical that, that is represented. And we think about it in this context of, data is really the new oil. Again, it's back to, hey, I've got great outcomes I can achieve from a productivity enhancing perspective with Copilot and ChatGPT and others. But if it's not powered by my organization's data, it's not really providing a lot of business context to achieve those results I described earlier. And we're at a unique point in time that these 3 things came together: advanced calculus, right? Really the transformer model to make, to make generative AI real in addition to traditional AI. Powerful compute, CPUs, GPUs, DPUs, and other technologies all coming together at one point in time and more affordable than it's ever been, to be able to process that advanced calculus. And of course, the culture that I just described, that certainly 427 days. I'm going to go back to that, George. There you go. That introduction, everybody saw the aha moment of like, wow, this could really be profound for the business. Now, how do I bring that forward, right, and innovate within my industry or vertical and disrupt, right, as opposed to being disrupted? I put it in this context too. I keep saying, let's put all the data science back in the bucket. Because generative AI got all the excitement. Everybody's like, hey, this is really cool. I always like to think about it in the context of let's layer in what are the business outcomes you're trying to achieve for the business organization wide, right? Not just one specific business unit. And then figure out the ones that have the highest ROI and fastest time to value. And then we'll apply the right set of data science against that, right? Many times it's walking all the way back because most organizations struggled with getting even back to predictive analytics because they never built out a full data lake environment with esoteric technologies like Hadoop to really be able to extract that value, or just the economics around it, right, was pretty challenging for most commercial customers over the last few years. So, hey, how do I do that? There's lots of ways of getting that done. Data mesh, fabric buses, and certainly modern in-place query engines like what we will be introducing in a couple months with Starburst. Super excited. You've probably seen some of our announcements kind of teasing it. Yes, it'll be coming up. You're going to hear a lot more from us in that era as we get towards Dell Technologies world. But if you look at that connective tissue that sits between these two, right, and I would extend that out to predictive analytics as well, it's all about the business's data. And by the way, like you didn't say this, George, but it's intellectual property. That's the number one reason everybody's wanting to do this on-prem. If I'm going to power this, right, and it's going to be tied to my applications and my data to get the most value out of it, it needs to be the most sensitive data the organization has. Things that you would never put out, outside of your firewall. So you need to put it in those contexts, right? Of like, there's great risks of doing it, great advantages, but I'm probably going to do this on-prem. And this is what we've seen with every Fortune 2500 over the last 18 months. And so again, if I think about our approach, think about it, this concept of like, big surprise here. Let's identify those use cases that fit across every business unit in the organization. Then there's probably some ones that are going to bubble to the top. And there's 6 that we found that are very profound, that are very horizontal across every industry and vertical. I'll give 2 big ones, and probably all of you have started, hopefully, your research in these areas because they're the biggest no-brainers for everybody. Is code generation. Like, think about this. What is writing code? Programming is nothing more than a structured schema language. Can't I train something to code better than a human ever could? It's a defined language. It's even way simpler than translation, natural language translation of what we have, and moving things from English to German or etc. So we think about that of code generation, and nobody has enough software coders, right? Because it's all about that CI/CD pipeline of how do I develop and create new releases of custom software internally. Our release schedule went from every 6 months, now using some of these tools ourselves, to every quarter, to every month. Think about how much more innovation we could bring to all of you, right? Our potential mutual customers. And if you're a Dell customer today, thank you. But our potential customers, to help bring that forward using generative AI, right? Not just providing it to you to put on our platforms. And then the other one I'll call out is support assistant. And this is just, think about it in this context of you're reaching out to Dell, you've got an issue on any product we've ever made. Oh, by the way, couldn't I have the most powerful level 1 engineer that ever existed? Because I'm going to train a model based on the knowledge base. A good example of IP. Think about our knowledge base of every product that Dell has ever made in history. And I train the model based on that knowledge base. Would I ever let that knowledge base go outside of my firewall? 100% not, right? That's 100% our IP and everything we've ever done. But think about the outcomes. Number one, I could have somebody through an automation system, right, through chat, or even things like a digital human, right, representing and talking to you, and you could talk back to her to provide that level 1 support. And think about it from a proactive notification perspective, because I can find correlation of issues that might exist in that knowledge base that a human never could have, right? It only might be 4 customers that are affected. We've already seen this occur, but it was in this exact scenario, and we were able to proactively notify them of a fix before it would have ever occurred. But it's what I just said. Those insights and correlation of 4 customers and our millions of accounts that we have worldwide. That's how profound this can be. Then ultimately we start thinking about, the next phase, which is what are the calculus that I described? What phase are we in? Do we need to, can we use something as a fast, easy to market, effort to put things at inference using things like RAG? Do I need to do some customization or fine tuning against an existing model? Do I need to train a full model? Most customers we feel are not, but there's certainly a subset of those largest accounts that are going to build their own foundational model because that is their IP and it's their competitive differentiation in the market. We'll call one out because we've all seen the press, like just Bloomberg GPT, right? Something that we all might take advantage of in our daily lives if we're traders. So, and then we think about ultimately landing on the incredible platforms that we bring to market together at Dell Technologies, right? Across compute, networking, and storage to help solve that and build a repeatable, enterprise scalable platform for AI. And it kind of leads me into this kind of discussion where I'm going to turn this to Sumit. Is we think about it in this concept of, I've been saying this for a long time. We've been doing this together, Sumit, for 7 years plus now of, truly having a composable architecture, right? In this case, for GPUs. And think about it just like George kind of teed up earlier. We know that supply is a big challenge right now. Everybody's fighting for supply. Hyperscalers, GPU as a service provider, CSPs, customers. There's just not enough that's available out there. And we think about it in the context of, hey, by the way, there's lots of GPUs that are available. Could I use them in a different way? And things like the L40S that you'll hear from Sumit later from NVIDIA, where they've taken all of their architecture and put it into what I'm kind of describe as the unicorn GPU that can do a little bit of everything. And you'll see some incredible things we're able to do outside of the confines of what we can do, even with all the incredible things we do in PowerEdge. What am I limited by? It's physical architecture. How big is the box? How much can I power and cool in that same platform? What if I could go outside of that box and open up, I don't have to worry about the confines of that, hardware piece of sheet metal, 1U, 2U, 4U, 5U server. I could just completely think about this in a different way. And certainly that's where we've been for a long time with composable, and certainly where we're going. Hopefully some of you have seen architectures like CXL, where we're going in the future. But man, it can bring some massive benefits to us right now in AI. And I think about it in the context of these GPUs, right? By their very nature, can be used in each of those phases of the life cycle, analytics, training, or inference, because many times those are esoteric pods that a customer is building out, right, for that specific instance. What if I could just have one architecture that could pivot around, right, depending on your needs? Oh, and by the way, software defined. So I can do it on the fly, schedule it, script it, and being able to completely, bring that environment, just like you have with containers, make that hardware ephemeral in nature, right? Bring it up, let it run the job, bring it back down. Because always the big question for people that are making big training investments, what are you going to do with that infrastructure once the training job is done? Maybe you're going to go train the next model. I get it. But there's many of them that don't know that answer. And that's actually a big problem. And this kind of helps free those cycles up. The last thing I'll leave you with, and just think about this one, because everybody's been asking me, obviously, with all the interesting things going on with Broadcom, think about like the next iteration of what this really should be from an on-premise IT perspective. If we're going to take an AI-first approach, what's been happening in the marketplace is high-performance architecture, so HPC, high-performance analytics and AI, is completely different from traditional enterprise architecture for, common off-the-shelf applications. They're all coming together at one time. And most of us, right, we're challenged with even supporting, just containers on premise for CI/CD. Well, we know that it's going to have to be, especially for multi-cloud, a container first environment. And there's software stacks that make this up. And it's pretty clear right now that you're thinking about it in three. You're going to have to make kind of a tool chain or control plane investment for the future for AI. And right now it seems to be shaping up in kind of in three buckets. NVIDIA with NVIDIA AI Enterprise with big investments. If you're not familiar, whole different talk track we could have around that. Lots of interesting technology there. VMware, maybe you've got big VMware investments like most, and you just want to continue down that path. With Broadcom, with Tanzu, right, expanding that out, and now going with Private AI Foundation. They're doing some great things with vSAN Max and other technologies. And then finally, where we made some introductions, right, late last year was our last phase of AI software for the moment is in OpenShift, right? We've had a long relationship. We're on version 14 of our OpenShift reference architecture. OpenShift, introduced the OpenShift data science portal, as well as obviously watsonx coming on-prem. So, these are kind of the predominant ones that are bubbling to the top. You need to think about what that, next modern architecture is going to be. And of course, what do you see at the bottom? We're going to be horizontal in nature, right, across all of these as an open standards-based, context, along with our open source community partners. And if you didn't see, we made announcements with Hugging Face and Meta, where we are the preferred on-premise platforms for those software architectures. So we're super excited with making those announcements last year, and you'll see a lot more announcements from us coming up. But that supplier diverse piece, I think, is extremely important, right? There's not enough GPUs to go around.
Alan, thank you for that wonderful overview. I think that was very timely, and a lot of the subject matter you covered is exactly what everyone is thinking about. So appreciate that overview, and obviously we appreciate the Dell partnership. As you said, we have been working with you guys for many years and very excited about the recent developments around all things GPU and the new products and solutions that we're able to bring to market in partnership with you guys. So I appreciate that overview. That was wonderful. What I'm going to cover here in my section before we open it up for Q&A is a little more detailed view of a specific product that we are partnering with Dell to bring to market to address some of those challenges that Alan identified in his presentation. The product that we are bringing to market is called ultrastack. It leverages a new GPU from NVIDIA called the L40S. Alan called it the unicorn GPU. We call it the universal GPU, but it's a really important product right now for all things generative AI. And what we've been able to do is partner tightly with Dell around their PowerEdge solution so we can bring this differentiated, compelling, high-performance solution to market that really addresses some of the challenges that Alan identified. So my goal today is to walk you through the architecture of this ultrastack solution, walk through some of the performance numbers that we've been able to capture, and then show you guys a little bit of the art of the possible, and most importantly, open it up for questions at the end so we can keep this dialogue interactive. And so, as Alan mentioned, there is not an organization right now where they are not thinking about their AI strategy. Every boardroom, the C-level staff is being asked, what is your strategy for AI? What specifically is your strategy for generative AI? And the answer can't be, we're still thinking about it, we don't believe in it, this thing's a fad. That's no longer acceptable. Not only do you have to be piloting your AI architectures now, you need to be moving them into production and need to be moving them into production soon, or you are going to get left behind. And we are big believers in what Alan mentioned, that AI is all about the data. And so if you're going to go run something like a trillion parameter AI model, you have two choices. You can forklift all of your data to something like public cloud, or you can bring the GPUs to the data, because GPU processing power is absolutely essential for anything that you want to do around AI, whether that's inference, whether that's training, whether that's generative AI, whether that's video, CAD, it doesn't matter. GPUs are at the heart of this thing. And so we see a big push towards those GPUs coming on-prem, and we want to find more efficient ways to deploy those GPUs in our customers' data centers. And one way to do that is actually deliver solutions where we have very high GPU density. And the reason why we're attacking this problem is the fundamental problems that we see some of our customers facing right now. One is around performance. How do I get the maximum level of performance for my AI models? I want to run faster, and so how do I get the most amount of GPUs deployed per workload? The next one is cost. How do I do this without having sprawl and without having, a massive cost impact? Do I have the ability to optimize GPU and CPU ratios to optimize the cost? Do I have the ability to optimize the power profile to optimize the cost? Do I have the ability to select the right GPU for the right job so that I can optimize cost? And then the last challenge that we see, and Alan mentioned it, is around availability. H100 is a phenomenally good GPU. We think it is a really, really powerful tool, but it's difficult to get. It's not available. And so customers want to do AI now. And so one of the things that ultrastack is intended to solve is that availability problem. We want to deliver a solution that's not only high performance, that's not only cost compelling from a TCO standpoint, but is available now so our customers aren't waiting 100, 200 days to get these GPUs because Facebook decided to buy another 350,000 of them, right? And so flexibility, silicon diversity is critically important as we go forward. And so one way we address that is really around our solution that we've partnered with NVIDIA and Dell around that leverages this new GPU from NVIDIA called the L40S. You can see the side-by-side comparison there, but this really is a universal GPU that's good for a wide variety of workloads, for inference, for natural language processing, for certain levels of training, for tuning, for video applications, for graphics applications, for omniverse applications. We are finding, tremendous success in this GPU. Now, the table on the right is a side-by-side comparison against the H100, which is the gold standard of AI right now. That is the best GPU that NVIDIA builds. But at the same time, the L40S is a very, very compelling solution. It has a large number of CUDA cores, maybe not as high-performing CUDA cores as H100, but it has a lot of them. It has a good amount of memory available to it. It has display ports, and we'll show you a use case where that display port available on the L40S is a really important feature for some of our customers who are doing things like VR. And I think the most important part about this solution is that it's a 350-watt device. Power is quickly becoming the limiting factor in many data center deployments, and the number of GPUs you can deploy in a rack now many times is not limited by rack space, it's limited by the amount of power that's available in that rack. And the other thing here is a very cost-compelling solution. The H100 is very capable, but it's very power hungry and it's very expensive. We think the cost point that the L40S is available at will make this a really interesting solution for many of our customers. And so what we've done here is we have jointly gotten together and built a solution around being able to build anything from an 8-way GPU server all the way up to a 20-way GPU server in partnership with Dell. Being able to take a single compute node and aggregate 20 GPUs to that application, and to the application, all of those GPUs feeling native and at the bare metal, not being able to tell that through the power of fabrics and disaggregation that we have composed those GPUs to that application. And by taking this approach of aggregating many of these devices to a single node, we can get massive levels of performance. We can improve TCO by having the right power profile, the right compute to GPU ratio. And as we mentioned earlier, this is a solution that our customers don't have to wait 100 or 200 days to get. This is a solution that's available now because we are able to leverage the appropriate GPU for this instance. And so I'll show you some performance numbers here, but we're very excited about delivering this joint solution to market. We are working with NVIDIA closely on this. We are working closely with Dell on this, and we think there's a great market opportunity here. Sorry, my machine is going slow here. We'll do a quick comparison here of some performance metrics and some ways of deploying the L40S in traditional servers, as opposed to deploying our 10-way and 20-way L40S. And so many people today are simply taking 8 GPUs, deploying them inside of a server, and scaling out their L40S environment in that way. We think there's potentially a better approach with ultrastack. If your application likes 8 GPUs because it runs faster, there's a good chance that that same application will run even faster if we can give that application 20 GPUs, for example. And so when we do a side-by-side comparison of our 20-way L40S to an 8-way configuration, first thing that we can see is we can get much higher levels of memory footprint per node. We can get up to 960 gigabytes of memory per node of GPU memory. That's actually higher than any other solution out in the market. We can aggregate a tremendous amount of cores together, over 300,000 cores to a single compute node. And we have the ability to actually add excessive amounts of networking through the power of disaggregation. And so if we're going to run in clustered environments, we can actually have more networking capability in something that's disaggregated as opposed to using a single monolithic server. We think this configuration is at least 2.5 times faster than using, a traditional 8-way server. One thing to note also is for many applications, as soon as you leave the compute node and you start doing things like MPI, you begin to give up performance. And so what we're finding is being able to aggregate more GPUs to a single node actually gives us higher levels of application performance as opposed to splitting that job amongst multiple nodes. The other thing that we think about is the other gold standard of AI, which is an HGX type platform. And so here we have a side-by-side comparison of an 8-way H100 NVLink based platform versus our 16-way ultrastack configuration. Though we don't have NVLink in our platform because L40S doesn't actually support NVLink, we do support this PCIe peer-to-peer capability, which gives us a tremendous performance advantage. And when we look at a side-by-side comparison of these two solutions, depending on the workload, we can actually get very compelling levels of performance with our 16-way L40S solution compared to something like a H100 NVLink-based systems. The difference is in this particular model, which is MLPerf 3.1 large language model inference, the title was not listed here, the DGX type solution is able to score 102. The L40S is able to score a 94, but the difference is we're able to do it at a much more attractive power profile. So again, having silicon diversity and being able to pick the right GPU for the right workload is super important because it gives you the ability to not only get to the performance level that you want to get to, but do it in a power profile that may be advantageous. And by no means are we saying that ultrastack is going to outperform a DGX H100 system across all workloads. It's not. It's very workload dependent. And so here's another example of our 16-way configuration on MLPerf 3.1 on 3 different workloads. And what you can see is depending on the workload, we're anywhere from 20-30% faster to 20-30% slower. And again, it comes down to being able to choose the right tool for the workload. And the other thing to note here is even though we are in many cases not as high in absolute performance, when you start taking a look at things like operations per watt, again, the L40S solution begins to tell a really compelling story.
Hey, Sumit, do you mind if I join in? I just want to make one comment because I love what you said there. I think a couple of things, right? And it somewhat comes out in a slide that H100, it, certainly the pillar of the NVIDIA stack. And I think everybody knows here, they probably are like, hey, Alan, you guys have a 8-way HGX system with the XE9680. Yes, we do. But I love what you said for 2 reasons. One, as soon as you start doing GPU scale out, unless it's required for training purposes, let's talk about where that use case typically is. If I'm trying to do GPU scale out for it, and you need that memory, need that memory footprint, okay, that's fine. That makes sense. If you don't, because I just see a lot of people not thinking about each one of these stages of the AI lifecycle. If you don't need that, you are doing exactly what you said. You're adding a lot of complexity and cost, because also now you're talking about those GPU worker nodes that are trying to interconnect are across InfiniBand. Like, because again, trying to reduce the latency that you already called out. So you're adding a lot of cost. Oh, and by the way, InfiniBand, connectivity, whether you're talking cables or switches, you can't get them any better than finding H100s out there. So there's a lot of challenges around this overall. But I think this inference one really hits home, and you heard me call it out before. I think our solution here with ultrastack is like the inference and the incredible inference platform, because of how many workloads it could support simultaneously. And we need to think about it just like if you all haven't thought about your needs at inference, right? It changes. I'm putting it in production. It's like, going to a website and building a high performance web farm if you've never done anything in AI. I'm just trying to get value out of the model. What am I doing? I'm looking for how many users can I concurrently get off of that single server, and then what's the response time? Because if it's too slow, users aren't going to use it. The adoption is going to be low of my AI, engine that I'm trying to build. This right here doesn't really even take all that into account. I would tell you, like the performance benchmarks here in ML Perf doesn't even really show what that looks like in at scale. You would get, from an inference perspective, probably much better performance out of this many L40Ss at scale than you would for H100, unless your model is that large in size.
Spot on, Alan. Appreciate the color here. You're absolutely right. If you're planning on doing training on large models and the parameter sizes are huge, H100 SXM 9680 is probably 100% the right answer. If you're more focused on inference, then you should be looking at something like an L40S, right? And so again, back to the right tool for the right job, and providing that silicon diversity even within NVIDIA's portfolio is critically important.
And I'll even say one thing there too. Think about this, exactly what Sumit just said. If your training expands beyond what you can fit in the box, right, from a memory footprint outside of peer-to-peer, that's where, like something like the H100 and XE9680 can be. It doesn't mean that ultrastack can't train. If your model fits in that 48 gig envelope here within L40S, or even peer-to-peer across those individual ones sitting in a cabinet, you can get some incredible training performance out of this as well. So I don't want to let people think it's just for inference either.
Fair. We do have one case study that we can talk about publicly. It's the information is out there, and this is around Meta, who is leveraging our ultrastack solution for a VR application. And for their particular application, the number of GPUs that they could connect to a single application was the determining factor here. And so this is a scenario where it's a Windows-based application. And because we do our disaggregation over native interconnects like PCIe, no drivers, modules, hypervisors, nothing like that is required when we disaggregate. And you can see that as all these 20 L40Ss are showing up directly inside of Windows. I think the interesting part about this solution is not only were we able to deliver the highest performing VR node on the market, but one of the things that they realized is by having a spare node inside of the rack, what they were able to do is leverage the power of composability. So in this scenario, in any circumstance, if compute node number one was to fail, for example, the DRAM module on that compute node failed, what the customer is able to do is, with a simple reprogram, take all of these GPUs, networking cards, storage devices, and move them over to a spare node. And so again, one of the benefits of being able to disaggregate is introducing new ways to do HA when you have very, very expensive assets that are being deployed. And then this is my last slide. These are the ultrastack offerings that we are offering with Dell. There's a deeper portfolio, but these are the three that we are primarily focused on. The one on the left is a 10-way configuration. So 10 L40Ss, 2 networking cards, DPUs and storage are optional, and they are supported in our platform. The middle one is a 16-way configuration. This one meets the NVIDIA reference architectures, where we have a significant amount of networking to GPU ratio. So that one is 16 GPUs and more networking. And then we have our final solution, which is the 20-way. So these are the three primary configs we are launching to market in partnership with Dell, specifically focused on leveraging the new L40S. This is the full offering from Liqid. We have the ultrastack on the left, which is our high-density GPU offering. We often sell that with some very fast I/O acceleration, our Honey Badger product, to couple it with those GPUs, and then our classic offering, which is our Smart Stack, which is the full disaggregated composable offering that we have here. And George, I know we got some questions in the window, so let's maybe move to Q&A.
No, there are a couple already. So one of them is what, if any, bottlenecks are introduced in the 20 by 20 ultrastack with a single server? Does CPU memory or transport have to be considered? What specific workload is a good target for a single server with many GPUs?
Yeah, maybe I can go first. So we really don't see any performance limitations here. One of the things that we support in our architecture is peer-to-peer capability. So all of the GPUs, the networking cards, the storage devices, they have the ability to direct RDMA to each other. And so there is a lot less what we call northbound traffic in and out of the CPU root complex. And so in our 20-way configuration, we ensure there's enough northbound bandwidth. We use 2 by 16 connections into the CPU root complex. Those 2 by 16 connections are actually the same amount of northbound bandwidth that something like a DGX would have. And so, no, we don't see any bottlenecks in our solution doing a 20-to-1 ratio. CPU and memory needs to be taken into consideration. We have recommendations in ultrastack that we've partnered with Dell to specify. There's a certain amount of memory that you need, and there's a recommended amount of cores that you need. And so we have specific PowerEdge servers that we are recommending depending on whether you're using 10, 16, or 20.
No, it's a great, and maybe I'll just kind of chime in there too. No, I think back to our validated, tested, and supported platforms together, right? You nailed it. I think a couple things to think about overall when you talk about AI. CPUs used very little. It's mostly a GPU world. So exactly what Sumit said there, and if you guys understand it or know some of the NVIDIA terminology, so GPU direct peer-to-peer is leveraged here, even though we don't have NVLink, which gets you great performance because the GPUs are communicating to each other, right, over the PCIe bus. So it bypasses the UPI or anything upwards to the CPU or to memory. So general, especially at inference, there's very little CPU required. In fact, most of the time we're seeing most customers on silver or gold processors. From a memory perspective, it's just based on the number of GPUs, which is what's in our recommendation. And to keep in mind, because I know a lot of people in our enterprise side, right back to high performance architecture versus enterprise, people get away from doing good practices around balanced memory configs based on the CPU architecture on. You can't bypass that here, and that's one of the things that we have in our reference architecture together.
Great.
Okay, great question. Let's see here. This is a good one as well. Are these ultrastacks PCIe Gen 4 or Gen 5? What is the lead time of ultrastacks?
Sure, I can go first and then Alan can comment. L40S is a Gen 4 GPU, and so we're putting it on a Gen 4 fabric. We're connecting it to Gen 5 head nodes, and so that is the way that we're doing it today. It doesn't really matter because the GPU itself is Gen 4. The lead time for ultrastack is we were shipping immediately. Very, very low lead times here. Alan, I don't know if you can comment on server lead times.
Yeah, no, obviously on the server side, that's where I've got the easiest, right? So we're still within pretty much 10 business day SLA on everything, outside of a few components, obviously GPUs being one of them. The L40S, right, where we've put this unicorn, or I like your universal GPU too, the universal GPU, at the forefront, definitely has the most availability. That's what NVIDIA's done too, to try to compress everything down and simplify their line. So they're maximizing availability on GPUs there too across their manufacturing line. So any demands they do with TSMC is all around the L40S, and I can tell you that that product is typically a couple week availability. So it's still very, very short timeline to get any of those versus what we see on let's just call it out, HGX complexes, right? That might be 12 months out.
Yep. Excellent. So here's another one. You mentioned the R series. Does Liqid work with the C or MX series?
Yeah, let me go.
Dell, I guess.
Let me go first, and then Alan can comment. So the answer is yes. We have a very big HCL list, hardware compatibility list. I think it's critically important that anyone who is looking at composability ask for the hardware compatibility list. It's critically important that you use servers that are on the HCL. There's a lot of things like BIOS interactions that are different amongst different servers. We support the C series. We do deployments today. That's a really good solution because it's 2U 4-node. And what we have the ability to do is do things like add 8 or 16 GPUs to a 2U 4-node server. The other one that we're super excited about is our partnership with Dell around MX7000. That is their flagship Blade product. And we have a significant amount of customer interest for customers who are looking to add GPUs to Blade servers. And for those that are interested in learning more about what we're doing with GPUs and MX7000, please do reach out. We have a very compelling solution there.
Yeah, I don't have anything else probably to add to that. That's perfect. I mean, we've been doing the MX7000 for a while together. I think a lot of people aren't aware. So if you go, that is our GPU solution for MX7000, right? Is 100% baked with Liqid. So yes, in fact, we have some great enhancements that we're just getting ready to launch. So yeah, please reach out if you have questions there.
And I'll double click on that just for 30 seconds. We got some really exciting announcements around MX7000 that we're going to be sharing in the next few weeks. So please keep an eye out for that.
Yep. Great. Here is one. Are there software license requirements for the ultrastack?
Ultrastack is a fully contained solution. So everything that you need for hardware, software licenses, manageability, cables, all of that is included in the solution that you guys buy from Dell. You'll basically be ordering a single SKU, and everything required will be contained in that SKU.
Basically, again, back to my piece, we're trying to create the easy button, right? This is one of the easy buttons for AI. Everybody's looking for the single click order for AI. We can't get there, but this is like the first step of like one piece of infrastructure to help customers in that process.
Right.
Perfect. No, that's great answers. Great questions. Keep them coming. And this one actually is semi-related. How about dynamically allocating and then in parentheses composing GPU resources to servers for the applications? And I think Sumit, you touched on that on the last slide. Talking about the different products that we sell today, we offer today. Really, the Smart Stack was the OG, and so maybe talk a little bit about Smart Stack and what that is and its benefits within AI as well.
Absolutely. I'll touch on that. So ultrastack, guys, is less focused on composability. It's focused on delivering a high density GPU solution because that's the pain point we are trying to solve with that specific offering. Smart Stack is intended to be a multi-server configuration. So the idea behind Smart Stack is you have a pool of GPUs, you have a pool of compute devices, and you come in dynamically and pick the GPUs you want and give them to the server that you want. And when we say dynamically, we're talking about hot plugging, hot removing GPUs from running servers. And yes, it does work. And so it depends on what problem we're trying to solve. Ultrastack is non-composable, specifically focused on GPU density and the pain points that we talked around CapEx, OpEx, and availability. Smart Stack is our composable offering. Again, both of these are done in partnership with Dell. And Smart Stack is more focused on the composable side of the house.
And that's what I alluded to earlier in my session when I kind of talked about like the different domains and being able to set up and tear down and make things more ephemeral in nature across analytics, training, and inferencing was more on the smart stack side. Yep.
Yeah, thanks for calling that out, Alan. Absolutely right. Hey, Sumit, this one is right up your alley.
Sure.
How will things change with CXL? Are these products ready?
Yeah, no, great question. And so we've been pushing GPU disaggregation for years, and now the market itself is moving to this concept of memory disaggregation. And memory disaggregation will not be done over PCIe as an interconnect or a fabric. Memory disaggregation will be done over a new emerging interconnect or fabric type called CXL. And so we, Liqid, are extremely excited about CXL. We're working with Dell on things that are CXL related. And so we are demonstrating it today, the ability to disaggregate memory over low latency interconnects like CXL, and actually demonstrating DRAM hot plug into servers in the labs today. These products will begin to emerge into the marketplace end of this year and through next year. But we are big believers in CXL because we think CXL is going to push the concept of disaggregation to the forefront. The second most expensive thing in the data center is the memory. And so being able to disaggregate the memory, raise the utilization rate, right size it is extremely valuable, and lots of customers see it. The most expensive thing in the data center is the GPU. And so if memory disaggregation makes sense, we think GPU disaggregation makes even more sense. And our vision is a multi-fabric world. We think every server in the world eventually will be composable. You're going to be able to pick the amount of memory, GPUs, and storage connected to it, but you're going to do it across different fabric types. PCIe and GPU makes a lot of sense. Ethernet and NVMe over fabric makes a lot of sense. And CXL and DRAM memory makes a lot of sense. So you can envision a server with multiple fabric connections grabbing the piece of hardware that's required for the application layer.
And we have a very common strategy here, aligned, as you probably heard us so far in our conversation over the last 7+ years. Yes, you're going to see a lot more from Dell. We also believe this is the future is composable. For those that have been in IT for a while, like it's always IT's like fashion always comes back around. I almost think about it in context of similar to what we were doing with LPAR and mainframes. Now x86 is growing up to be even better than what we were able to achieve with LPAR, and being able to disaggregate all of it. We think one important piece of that when you think about it as compute overall is just form factors too, right? Because form factors can completely be rethought when you go in this direction. So we're going to be embracing, in the future, just think about it over the next 18 to 24 months, new open compute architectures, right? To make things more composable, more open, and standards-based for customers. In fact, we're driving a lot of the standards moving forward for both that and for liquid cooling in data center, because we know what's happening with TDPs, with all these technologies. We feel it all comes together, and that he was being very humble. I kind of said this for a long time. I feel like Liquid's been ready for this for years. Now, finally, the industry is catching up with some of the transport layer technologies to make this real and to disaggregate some of those last components. I'd say like they're ready. Probably one of the last pieces of that point-to-point that he alluded to is going to be coming out pretty quickly. It will take new CPU architectures to fully get us there outside of memory, because we're at CXL 1.1 today. Just expect as we get new CPUs to market that this is only adoption is going to accelerate overall across all the transports that Sumit called out.
Very good. Very good. Let's see here. Well, these are great. These are got a ton of questions. Can you talk about using this solution to support VDI with additional GPU resources via having to get GPUs inside a box, allowing customers to use node-based servers to connect to massive external GPU resources and couple with NVIDIA Grid?
Yeah, one of my favorite questions, right? We get this asked often. So you guys are doing composable. Does that mean I don't need virtualization anymore? And the answer is no. It's actually a better together story is the way that we position it. Think about the classical world is I buy a box that has, I don't know, 8 SSDs and a GPU. When I need that 9th SSD or the next GPU, I buy another box and I give VMware more money, right? In our world, we don't do that. When that Dell head node needs another storage device or needs another GPU, we compose that at the bare metal underneath the hypervisor. The hypervisor can't tell that that GPU is disaggregated. It just thinks somebody plugged another GPU into the motherboard and away you go. And so a lot of times our customers are using composability as a way to cut down on the VMware tax. And so we see this very much as a better together story. We work with VMware, we work with Nutanix, we work with other hypervisors.
And I think it's important to put it in this context, because I've been around a VDI for a long time. For those, there's a few on the phone that know me because I know I've been receiving messages. I was at Citrix for a while, so I have a pretty big understanding of the VDI platform overall. And I'd say, think about it in this context of like we're moving towards more workstation class graphics in this era. And actually, the big challenge is it's a 1-to-1 ratio in many cases for some of those top applications. So it's not core bound at the CPU, it's GPU bound. This kind of completely decouples that. And it's probably where maybe some of that question was coming from, is more the VDWS type of efforts, right? Of virtual desktops from a workstation perspective. But yeah, like completely decouples all of it and flattens it out, especially as we get higher and higher core counts on the CPU. That means I'm only going to be able to, have more cabinets sitting behind a given server with cores supporting all of my VDI sessions.
That's right.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more about what we're doing at VDI, there's some great case studies on our website, liquid.com. One of them, a fantastic one for the media entertainment industry, would be Squeeze Animation up in Canada. So definitely check it out. They're on our website. From a service and support perspective, can you outline the flow of the given partnership with Dell?
Sure, I'll go first, then Alan can add color. And so, guys, we're not asking you to buy from Liqid directly. We actually prefer that you buy from Dell directly. And so the way the flow works is we provide our IP to Dell, which is our fabric technology and our software. And then Dell integrates the servers, the GPUs, and the balance of the solution and sells it out to the end customer. What that provides is it gives our customers an opportunity to buy from the biggest IT vendor on the planet. You get global support, break, fix, all of that. Liqid will stand with Dell behind every single deployment. We will likely be there when we are doing the deployment side by side with Dell, but this can be purchased directly from Dell. Is the way that we do it. We have channel partners also, and Alan is very supportive of channel partners. I know that. And so if you prefer to buy from channel partners, we can guide you to the right channel partners we're working with. If you prefer to buy from Dell, by all means, you can buy directly from Dell. And the support global break fix will be provided by Dell, but it will be backstopped with Liqid here.
Think about it as a tested, validated, supported solution. And I think Sumit just laid it out well, right, of what we've been doing together, trying to make it the easy button. Just think about it just like VMware services or anything else, right? It's kind of that level 2 type support is where we would, bring in and ask for Liqid if there was something specific there, or just refer it over if there was something, for example, at the orchestration layer. Maybe it's software related on SmartStack, right, where you're just trying to get something solved on the software side. But yeah, from a global break fix, exactly as Sumit said, everything that you know and love about pro support and all of our services fall right in line here.
Perfect. All right, well, we're at the top of the hour. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. This has been recorded and will be sent out to all the attendees and registrants shortly. So once again, thank you all for joining the call today. I hope you were able to take away some valuable information to help you in your journey. I want to thank Alan Clingerman for joining us today. As always, fantastic.
Alan, we thank you for your support, your partnership. We're super excited about what we're doing with Dell, and we look forward to doing great things with you guys in 24 and beyond. Thank you.
No, I mean, this is just like we kind of called out with everything going on between ultrastack and SmartStack, like what we're going to be able to help with the customers in this journey, right? Moving from AI and analytics and obviously across all the disciplines, it's going to be incredible. So yes, it's been a great partnership and looking forward to our next 5 years together.
Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you.